Chapter 32. Wednesday late afternoon. Muggs barked several times and Doreen laughed. Okay, she said. Fine. It's a road trip. With all three animals in her car again, Doreen backed down the driveway and out of the cul-de-sac, heading toward Gordon Avenue. Finally, she turned toward Dilworth Road and used it to cut across the mall area to Dilworth Mountain. In her mind, she understood where she was supposed to go, but some of the streets didn't sound familiar. She took several corners and then finally came to the right street. And shortly afterward, she came to the house in question. It was a huge all-brick mansion and looked timeless. It sat there just off to the corner, where it would maximize the view of the city below. Doreen nodded to herself, pulled up and around, parked, got out with the animals, and decided she'd take a casual walk past. She was walking on the other side when a Mercedes pulled into the driveway. Their big garage door opened, and the Mercedes pulled in beside a truck. This made Doreen stop in her tracks. It pulled up beside a black truck, she whispered to herself. She hurriedly pulled out her phone and called Mac. I haven't had a chance to get an answer yet, he snapped at her. New search, she said, her voice steadily soft. Look up Norbert's wife's new husband's vehicles. She just parked her Mercedes in her garage beside a black truck. Mac swore on the other end of the phone. She cut him off saying, Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm looking. Yes, I have a damn good idea what happened, and you need to get me some proof. Then she hung up on him and walked around the cul-de-sac a couple times before putting the animals back into her vehicle and sitting with them, wondering what she should do now. She needed the woman's number. Using her cell phone, she tried to track it down but didn't get anywhere. It was probably unlisted. She needed Mac to get that too. And that would just piss him off. Finally, she decided to leave her car, taking Muggs and Goliath on their leashes and Thaddeus on her shoulder. She walked up to the front door and rang the doorbell. It was one of those elegant executive homes her ex would have loved. She'd lived in plenty of them herself too, but they didn't appeal to her. They always had that modern contemporary look but were very cold feeling. When the door opened, a beautifully coiffed blonde stood in front of her with a bored look on her face. The woman reminded Doreen of her past. All the women she'd known back then had the same elegance and the same bored look. She asked, Yes? Doreen gave her a bright smile and with a blunt tone said, I just wondered why you tried to pay Manny money to leave town. The woman stared at her and fear whispered through her eyes. Doreen nodded and added, Exactly. Did you think it would all just go away? The woman looked around hurriedly. You better come in, she said, as she pulled the door open. Doreen stepped inside with the animals in tow. A beautiful slate floor with some high-gloss finish made the entire room glow. But Doreen had seen much nicer. She was completely unimpressed if the woman was trying to intimidate her. Doreen had the wrong person in that regard. So you haven't answered my question. Why the hell should I? The woman snapped, showing the ugliness that lived inside. It's got nothing to do with you. I get that you might not like that your first husband was banging Manny on a regular basis. Weekly, to be exact, but what difference did it make at that point if Manny was still around or not? The woman stared at her in horror. How could you possibly know all this? I also know, Doreen said, that Norbert was being charged with stealing from the bank. No. The woman shook her head. He wasn't charged. That's the thing. They were going to lay him off, but they weren't going to charge him. So what? You couldn't handle it? You couldn't handle the humiliation? What are you talking about? You couldn't handle it, so you ran him down? I didn't run him down, she said. How dare you accuse me? Why not? Manny disappears. Norbert dies in a hit and run, and a month later here you are, married and up another step on the social ladder. Doreen waved her arm around at the house for emphasis. The woman's face turned blotchy red with anger, and she stomped her foot on the floor. You don't know anything about it, she said. Do you have any idea what it's like when your husband wants to spend time with a prostitute? Like, how absolutely disgusting is that? I think Manny was probably a very nice person, Doreen said. How could he be? Lynette snapped. It was an abomination. Right, Doreen said, hating how this woman had reduced Manny to an it. So you killed him. The woman laughed. And the thing was, it was real laughter. Doreen's heart sank as she realized she'd been wrong. I didn't have anything to do with her. I tried to give her money, hoping she'd leave town and save me the humiliation that all my friends knew about. It was bad enough Norbert was being let go from the bank with a cloud of suspicion over him, she said tiredly, her shiny good looks slipping into a brassiness, showing the tarnish over her years. But to think he was doing whatever he was doing with that person, God. She shook her head in disbelief. And your marriage a month after Norbert died? Doreen asked. Oh, you should know, the woman said snidely. I understand your husband dumped you. So you went from having it all to having nothing. Well, I was done with having nothing. I wanted it all. Doreen's heart sank farther as she realized this woman already knew a lot of Doreen's history, and probably half the town did too. Doreen said, you were married so fast. You were probably banging him while your husband was banging poor Manny. Poor Manny, she snapped. They'd known each other for forever. He kept trying to defend his lifestyle and saying he was just mixed up and needed support. She shook her head. It's disgusting. Doreen wasn't of the same mindset. And your second husband, did he mind all that? Of course, she said, he wanted it all to go away himself. Of course he did, Doreen said with a thin smile, not believing half of what Lynette said. I guess since Norbert died, life's been good, right? Why shouldn't it be? The woman snapped. I mean, I went through hell before my husband died. It was a relief when he was gone. And Manny too. You have no idea what it's like to be the object of ridicule. Actually, I do, Doreen said. Not for the same reasons, but I definitely understand being laughed at. Then why are you even asking me all this? It's so long ago. Because they found Manny's body, Doreen said. The woman looked at her in horror. That's right. They found his body. And forensics is all over it. The woman stepped back, her hand going to her chest. You don't think I had something to do with it, do you? Doreen raised an eyebrow. She'd learned long ago that people often shut off their mouths if you gave them a chance to talk. The woman shook her head. Why would I bother? Manny had been in my husband's life for so long, it was a humiliating nightmare. But it was just one more disgusting part of the life I had to live. You could have left, Doreen said. I considered it, Lynette said. You bet I did. And then Dean came along. Lynette told Doreen the last part with a smile that said she got sucked in and fell in love. It told Doreen that Dean had taken Lynette away, like the charming prince he appeared to be, and had converted her life from hell to heaven. Doreen nodded. I guess he didn't think much of any of it, did he? No, he told me that I should leave Norbert. That I should leave it all behind. So why didn't you? I didn't know how, Lynette said simply. It would just be so messy. Getting up one day, walking out of the house and moving in with your new boyfriend, is it that messy? You don't understand, the woman said briskly, but I had nothing to do with Manny's death. Just then a voice behind them called out, Sweetheart, is everything okay?